All right, thanks, Charles, for being with us.
My pleasure.
Charles Stewart III is a political science professor at MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and he's one of the co-directors of the Caltech MIT Voting Technology Project. And he's recently researched the effects of absentee and early voting in terms of their impact on voters, election administration, and turnout. So could you talk to us a little bit about that? What effect does the availability of early voting options have on voters, turnout, or elections generally?
Right. Yeah. So the factor that normally gets a lot of attention has to do with turnout, and which I think it therefore comes as a big surprise and maybe disappointment to a lot of folks to discover that the academic research suggests very little effect of these sorts of techniques, early voting, absentee voting, on turnout. The big effects that these techniques have, it's not so much on turnout, but really on the quality of the elections, seen both from the perspective of the convenience to the voter, and then also benefits that come about because of improved election administration. So for instance, with respect to security, if we're concerned about people wanting to vote, say, vote from afar or vote before Election Day. One of the nice things about early voting is that it allows voters to go in and to vote with an election official observing what's going on. And so for people, say, concerned about absentee balloting, maybe the ballots getting lost in the mail or inappropriately assisted by, say, a family member, then there's improved oversight and security. In terms of convenience, of course, giving voters an opportunity to go and vote, say, when they're out doing errands or when they've already made up their minds and they can fit it into their day. There's big improvements that way as well. So the bottom line is that early voting, absentee voting, voting by mail, primarily has the benefits when they do occur of making things more secure, or making things more convenient, improving the quality of administration. Every now and then there's an effect on turnout, but I would say that turnout and increasing turnout would not be the reason to adopt any of these techniques or making them more liberal or easier to use.
Okay, great. And if legislators are thinking about introducing some of these things, early voting, for example, or removing excuses available for absentee voting, what are some of the things that they might want to consider and think about?
Well, one of the things to think about really is the tradition and the norms of the state, really. And I think that one of the things we found is tremendous variation across the nation in the types of pre-election day voting that seem to be catching on. In the West, for instance, it appears that mail voting is really quite popular, and at least distributing ballots by mail is something that not only is popular, but many voters are very comfortable with. Whereas on the East Coast and the South, even when states have moved to, say, make it easier to vote absentee, voters haven't really taken to that mode as much. However, they've taken to early voting and making it easier to vote in person. So the first thing I would think about really is what you're trying to achieve and what sort of voting mode is really of interest and really of comfort within whatever state you're located in. Another thing to think about too is really the cost and why it is that you're doing this and whether you think cost is a big factor or not. There are some ways of implementing both early voting and more liberalized absentee voting that actually can make things really quite more expensive. And maybe that's a benefit if the convenience and security benefits are really what's overriding things. But if a state or locality is concerned about costs specifically, then one has to worry about not only, say, fully staffing Election Day precincts and then mailing out ballots, but also the administrative complexity that comes up and now, say, running two large types of election systems. And so cost, administrative structure are really two factors that states and localities need to think about.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for speaking with us today.
You're
Appreciate
very
it.
welcome.